63 years on this earth, and nobody had ever made me feel small until my own son did on a Friday night in Manhattan. Victor had always carried himself with quiet pride. He was from Queens, the kind of man who fixed his own sink, pressed his own shirts, and never asked for help unless it truly mattered. That night he wore his best navy suit, old but neat and carefully kept. He took the subway into Manhattan like he always did, turning down the car his son had offered. He paid his own way, that mattered to him. The gala was held at the Meridian, all glass, gold light, and soft music. $600 a plate, his son had said. Victor knew he didn't belong in rooms like this, but he wasn't ashamed of who he was. He saw his seat right away, table 14, far from the stage, near the back. When his son, Daniel, came over, he didn't hug him, didn't even pause. He just shook his hand firm, quick, like they were strangers doing business. That was the first crack. Later, Daniel stood on stage, confident and smooth. The room listened to every word. Victor sat quietly, hands resting on the table. Then Daniel smiled. And now he said something fun. We're auctioning off an evening with my boring dad. The room burst into laughter. Loud, easy, careless. Starting bid $1. Victor stood slowly. He smiled small, steady. He said nothing, and somehow that silence carried more weight than all the laughter. Then, from table one, a silver haired stranger stood up. $1 million. The room froze.
The room stayed frozen long after the words were spoken. Victor did not move right away. He simply turned his head, slow and steady, trying to see the man who had changed the air in the room with a single sentence. Later, as the crowd buzzed and whispered, the silver-haired stranger approaches him. Victor Hayes, the man said calmly, extending his hand. I'm Maurice Parker. Victor saw it this time more carefully than before. Murray slipped a cream-colored card into his hand. No title, no company logo, just a name and a number. Call me, he said, tomorrow morning. The restaurant did not have a price on the menu. Victor noticed that first. He almost smiled to himself. Something in life were clearly not meant for a man like him. But he stayed anyway. Morais sat across from him, relaxed, like this meeting had been planned for years. Do you remember a man named Mitchell Green? Morais asked. Victor blinked. Harvard University, 1974. And just like that, the past came rushing back. Mitchell, his roommate, his friend. Morais leaned forward slightly. He told me about you. Victor stayed quiet. You wired him 50,000 US dollar. Marais continued everything you had said. No contact, no share, just trust. Victor looked down at the table. He needed it more than I did. Marais nodded. He built a company worth 380 million US dollar. Victor did not react, not outwardly. I know, he said softly. I follow from a distance. You never ask for anything back. Victor shook his head once. That was not the deal. Morris stared at him for a moment, then slid a folder across the table. Inside was a single page, number too many zero. Victor went still. I am offering you 15% equity in Parker Clean Infrastructure Fund. Morris said, no investment needed. Your contribution was made 31 years ago. Victor looked up slowly. Why stand up last night? He asked. Why not just call me? Maurice Why stayed calm. Because I wanted your son to see, he said, that the man he called boring was the most valuable person in that room. Victor closed the folder gently. I will accept, he said. Then he paused, but on one condition. Jordan had been trying to get a meeting with Parker Capital for 2 years. Emails, call, introduction that went no higher. He never got past the first door. Vector one condition had been simple. Jordan gets the meeting, but not the way he accepted. The building stood tall on 43 road floors, glass and steel. Jordan stepped out of the elevator, adjusting his tie, wearing confidence like a shield. He believed this was his moment. Inside, everything was quiet, controlled, important. Victor sat in a side room, unseen, wearing his navy suit for the third time. It was become his lucky suit. Through the wall, he called her voice. Then another voice entered. Mitchell Green. Jordan greeted him with surprise, a hint of excitement. He knew the name everyone did. A man like that did not just walk into rooms, he was the room. And just like that, the balance shifted. The door opened. Victor stepped in. Jordan turned. For a second, nothing happened. Then everything did. Recognition, confusion, recalculation, and then something deeper, something heavier. The slow sinking realization that the ground beneath him was not what he thought it was. Dad, he said, unsure. Maurice did not look at Victor. His eyes stayed on Jordan. I don't do business, he said calmly, with people who cannot recognize the value of what's right in front of them. Silence filled the room. Victor stepped forward, not angry, not loud, just clear. It cost me something, he said that night. I'm not going to pretend. It did not. Jordan could not answer. Victor nodded once, as if that was enough. Then he buttoned his jacket and he left. Outside, Sixth Avenue was alive with noise, cars, wives, wind moving through the city. Victor stepped into the October air and breathed. For the first time since that Friday, he felt like himself again. He did not turn back. Quiet men never do. They do not need to.